Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today we're going over the popular Wunduniik. I'm going to be reviewing it and showcasing what this mod list has to offer. Of course, for convenience reasons, I separated every part into groups from environment down to combat, so feel free to skip around if you want. But if you guys end up liking this video and want me to review more Wabbajacks like this, let me know down in the comments, but as of right now, let's dive right in. So of course, to start us off, we have to first mention a character customization because that's going to be the first thing you run into. And the first thing that you may notice is all the new races that are added, and the races that were kind of renamed. With of course my favorite being Capitan. I'm pretty sure that's not exactly how you say it, but that is my favorite custom race and this mod list has it. For skin customization, he does use bits and pieces or BNP male and female. Even though the male does look a little more rugged now, it is definitely still that skin. This character creation pretty much has something for everyone, including the people that like to play Khajiits because they are massively overhauled. Especially considering the fact that Wunduniik managed to get high poly head in here. Even with the site being in the void right now, Vector Plexus won't be back for a while. But with high poly head also comes with a bunch of new presets for you to pick and choose from. But if you end up with purple hands like me, you definitely did something wrong. I had the wrong gender for the preset, so it made the hands purple and the face ugly. But if you do everything right, you'll be given a bunch of presets for you to pick and choose from, unless you prefer to make your own, which is also an option considering all the new features that this mod list provides, such as thousands of new hairs and beards for you to choose from. I do wonder how many technical combinations that would make it. But then there's also the war paints option, which is also based on the number above, has over 400 options for you. So if you enjoy character customization that you can spend hours in making your own unique character, this is definitely the mod list for you. But then after that, we have the environment. The environment of Wunduniik is absolutely beautiful, featuring thousands of new tree placements all over, new ruins for you to explore and find if you prefer to explore. I will say though, this does combine three very massive tree mods. At first glance, you may only notice Nature of the Wildlands, which has quickly become the majority's favorite, especially in every mod list that I see now, when it comes to a tree mod at least. But Wunduniik goes a little bit further, adding even more trees with Overhauls. I do believe Overhauls just gives it more trees for Nature of the Wildlands to work with. I don't think it's actually using any of the models, at least not from what I noticed. So it just leaves you with a super dense and lush forest with new creatures to find and kill. But there's a third tree mod that I didn't mention, and that tree mod is Archwood. It is a very underrated forest mod that I actually showcased a while ago, but not many people decided to give it a try because it does look weird. You don't really hear much about it either way. But it adds new tree variants that Nature of the Wildlands doesn't actually touch for some reason. It adds some glow to your forest, like there'll be bent over trees that glow or new mushrooms in your forest. You won't really see too much of it considering it only touches Falkreath. Like in the Rift, all you'll mainly see is Overworld and Nature of the Wildlands. Mainly Nature of the Wildlands, but Overworld is there sometimes. And unfortunately, due to combining these three massive tree forest mods, you're going to experience some FPS drops. Like I have a 3070. And it did affect me. I did have 60 in some areas, but when it got to super dense areas like Falkreath, I did drop to about 40 to 50. But if you happen to have frame gems from Pure Dark or maybe lossless upscaling from Steam, then you should be perfectly fine. You shouldn't have any FPS drops. And if I'm throwing just a little bit of bias in there, the reach area of Nature of the Wildlands is definitely my favorite. If I grab it, it's just for that area.
To go.
The only part about this environmental overhaul that might throw some people off of Wunduniik is the tundra. A green tundra is a hit or miss for 90% of players in Skyrim. They either love it or hate it. Not that it doesn't look good, I guess, but just because it doesn't feel like Skyrim to them anymore. But if you do happen to enjoy green tundra or just don't really care that much like me, this mod list provides that for you, making Whiterun an extremely beautiful hole. But at least he did decide to stay true to the dark and creepiness of the Morthal Swamp. That place is extremely dense with dead trees and grass. Sometimes you can't even see what's attacking you because of the grass is so high. But now that we have the environment out the way, we can start talking about how he overhauls the cities, like Whiterun. He's using Whiterun has walls. This is the original version, not the redone version, which I highly recommend to try out if you haven't given it a chance yet. Almost every city that you see in Wunduniik will have some type of tree or new lushness added to it because I guess that was his vision, to make things more lush. Like Markarth, more trees were added and more moss. Along with JK Outskirts, which I'm not too much of a fan of because of FPS reasons, not the Markarth one at least because it's so compact. but he blended it well and made it look good, so I can't hate the fact that he added it to this mod list. But then we can kind of just take a quick jump over to Riften, where it was pretty much left alone. Nothing too fancy was added to it, and it makes sense considering Riften is the smallest city, but for some reason it's the heaviest city. But at least JK Riften Outskirts was added, which is the best one in that series in my opinion. Honestly, the Windhelm Outskirts isn't that bad either. But not just the big cities were overhauled, also small villages like Iverstead was overhauled with dull doors. Not many people actually use that one, but it's definitely a great mod if you happen to love Cities of the North, which is also mixed in here, just not Cities of the North Falkreath. Falkreath was pretty much left vanilla, which is perfectly fine to me. But once you start exploring with Wunduniik, you'll definitely notice the differences that it added, and it kind of blend well together. It isn't just a bunch of added stuff that just doesn't look good. Some outlets does that, but Wunduniik doesn't do it. Although it does have some issues, the issues that you notice will be kind of small, nothing major that would ruin the gameplay for you. But I will admit, some of the changes made by this mod list can be a bit controversial for some people because it is too massive of a change from vanilla, which I can't admit to myself, but honestly it does look good with this mod list. It's just the fact of if you try and remove any of it, considering this is 3,000 mods in one list, you're pretty much breaking warranty when you crash because they will not help you. That pretty much goes for all mod lists. You cannot remove a mod from a mod list over a few thousand and expect them to know exactly what's causing the crash. But in the heaviest of areas, this mod list did leave most things alone, so your FPS shouldn't suffer too much with this. Even though the exteriors might have been left a little normal when mods didn't touching it, the interiors though, they were completely overhauled with mods, mainly being Lux, which is 100% a must have in any list I play. Even if it doesn't use ENB, you will not hear positive things from me if you don't use Lux, unless it's for FPS reasons. For the most part though, every interior was changed up with JK's interiors, and if you use JK interiors, you know how many plugins come with that, considering you have about Lux patches, then you have JK interior patches, and then you have other patches. So I'm willing to bet at least 500 to 600 patches in this list is just from JK interiors alone. But this list doesn't just use every single JK interior, he also mixed it up by adding some of Ryan's interior, which kind of surprised me. Most people test Ryan's interiors but never actually use them truthfully, which I don't blame them for because JK pretty much overhauled all of them. It's not an all-in-one for some reason, but the most important ones were definitely overhauled, like Candlehearth Hall. Honestly, Falkreath and the interiors might be the heaviest part of this list, because some of JK's interiors mixed with Lux patches can have your FPS drop, or at least have your draw cost skyrocket to about 25,000, while your exteriors only have about 8,000, and you can kind of see the difference there. Alone they're fine, but when you combine Lux and JK interiors, that's when the FPS drops happen, but honestly you start really noticing it once you get Pure Dark's upscaler. JK interiors, due to being so popular, generally have a patch for everything you can think of, hence why there can be a lot of plugins added just by JK interiors alone, and then you add Lux. But trust me, once you have these beautiful interiors, you'll pretty much never want to go back to vanilla, but you just want to make sure you can actually handle these. But honestly, Wunduniik doesn't really aim to be lower end PC friendly like I usually aim for. Instead, aims for the best visual experience and a massive gameplay overhaul, and I'd say it's definitely delivering, especially considering this is still the early stages of this mod list, so we never know what's really going to change. And after interiors, of course, we have the NPC changes. This mod list has a weird mix of NPC faces. There isn't just one or two face overhauls like people generally aim for Mod Apocalypse to keep it simple, or just high poly head overhaul. Wunduniik added a unique mix of NPCs, for lack of better words, like Debella Blessing, which is also very controversial to most people because they don't like ugly NPCs. I'm okay with that, I actually like Debella's Blessing. But then he also added Niththi overhauls for the males, and honestly that's generally what I go with, Debella and Niththi, that's kind of my combination. But there's so many more overhauls that were added into the mix, I couldn't possibly name every single one of them. On top of that, bandits were massively overhauled, giving them new armors that were added to the game. Like, this list is not just vanilla armor. There is definitely a huge mix of armors added into the level list that you'll definitely see a lot of, especially at earlier stages. In terms of animals as well though, there are a lot of changes happening here, like fat chickens, or just new creatures added in total to this list. If nothing else, if we ignore almost every single other part of Wunduniik's 3,000 plus mod list, this list is a pure visual overhaul through and through. I'm not entirely sure if Alex claims for this to be Vanilla Plus, but this is far from Vanilla Plus, and it's definitely still enjoyable for me. It was a new experience to explore all the new animals that were added to this, and the new overhauls to those animals. Like I never thought to add fat chickens to my mod list until now. There wasn't just new creatures added, there's also a lot of new followers that you could find, and what told me this was the giant wolf in Morthal, which just means that Comina was added, as well as Gore and a bunch of other followers I've never tried before. But I definitely will be trying once I use this mod list just a little bit more because I am now invested. I definitely think you guys enjoyed the selection of followers added to this because no bugs were introduced either. Wunduniik in terms of gameplay is more of a Simon Realm overhaul that uses Sky Valor as a base to make it even more difficult. When I first played this list though, I wasn't sure what this skill tree was. I knew it wasn't vanilla, but I couldn't tell that it was adamant for some reason. Of course, because adamant is being used, you have to use custom skill tree because adamant makes your skill tree smaller, so it can be kind of boring, so you need something on top of it to make it a little more interesting. So we have a bunch of new perk trees that you guys have probably never even seen before, or at least never used. But trust me, you'll want to use this over Vulcanator Black, which can be a bit overwhelming. Vulcanator Black is great if you plan to level up to level 400 and have like 3 perk points per level. But if you want a vanilla progression system where you don't have to stress too much about ruining your build, I say that this setup is perfect for that. My only issue with this setup so far is Andromeda. Andromeda is set up for a vanilla gameplay so you can gain experience that helps you level up a certain skill faster, like one-handed or two-handed, or maybe swing weapons faster. But the thing is, that doesn't exactly work with this Wunduniik's combat setup, so some of the stones become essentially useless. Wunduniik uses a different leveling system. It actually uses a mod called Experience. It makes it so you don't level weapons up by using them, you have to actually kill enemies, discover locations, or just clear a location of enemies to gain experience. And that's perfect for use with the next mod called Static Skill Leveling. These two when combined make for the ultimate gameplay overhaul, and it's essential for almost every list in 2024. And that's why I say it pretty much doesn't work with Andromeda. But what does work is Book of Shadows. This is a mod I rarely ever see anyone using because of the bugs, but it lets stealth gameplay actually become fun with smoke bombs, hiding your face when committing crimes, which is the best part in my opinion, or even just if you want to do stealth attacks that strangle enemies. Of course you have to be undiscovered and unarmed for it to work, or else you'll just do a normal kill stealth attack. It'd be cool if someone made a dynamic activation patch for this, but for now, this is all we have. This mod list definitely added some hidden gems or just largely forgotten about mods that you can have some fun with. So you'll pretty much never be bored with this mod list because you'll be trying to figure out what those 3000 mods are while you're playing, which will take a while. I still haven't figured out at least half of these yet. But now we have the most important part of this video, the combat. This is probably the part everyone was wondering about and if they should get it. And honestly, the combat side of this mod list is amazing. The combat in Wunduniik is already gamepad compatible, so if you use controller, you can plug that in and be ready to go immediately. But if you use keyboard and mouse like me, it might be a little confusing because some controls are double input because controller doesn't have all those buttons like we have. Wunduniik also uses 80 XP for modern combat animations and attacks, and also uses dodge modern combat overhaul, so if you prefer TK dodge, that is not in here, unfortunately, but DMCO is better in my opinion. But what is a bit controversial about this combat is that it does use Valhalla combat, which can be a little cheaty, with Blade and Blunt, which is pretty hardcore, which have very different approaches to combat and aren't fully compatible, but you won't notice any issues when you combo the two. You'll just be dying a lot more often than you expected. This combat is fast paced and deadly. Thankfully Wunduniik uses Vanguard, which makes it so enemies won't spam bash you because their bash is more telegraphed now, so if you get hit by it, it's pretty much your fault. And also wait your turn, so only ever one enemy will be attacking you at a time, which is needed for the stagger system this mod also introduces, because you will get stagger lock without these two mods combined to nerf enemies. I definitely love the fast paced approach introduced in Wunduniik, and I actually prefer it over the slow timed attacks that make battles last 5 minutes with just one bandit, because enemies block the entire time and then only attack if you're power attacking. But that doesn't mean you can just power attack through everything with Wunduniik, because everything is hardcore in this mod list and you'll have to always be prepared or else you'll die immediately. But now we have my personal opinion on this mod list, and I'll be 100% honest here. Wunduniik is amazing. I'm not going to just say that it's bad or good, it does have its issues. It's going to crash sometimes because it is 3,000 mods, and it is fairly new. Why do you think Vagabond disappeared? Because things have issues, and Wabbajacks are not fun to upkeep, I will be honest. I'm currently upkeeping mods and it has not been easy, so I can only understand what Alex is going through with 3,000 mods. But he is fixing them, and they have been improving his mod list tremendously. If you try Wunduniik for anything, even for combat, I would definitely recommend just to explore this mod list and see what you do and don't like, because the main point of a Wabbajack is just to pretty much figure out what you do and don't like in the mod list, so you can make your own eventually, and I think Wunduniik is a great start for that. But you can't really change anything in this because, like I said, it is 3,000 mods, and if you change anything, you'll mess with the personal patches, which can ruin the mod list entirely. So I would definitely say Wunduniik is definitely not beginner friendly, so if you're just coming back to modding Skyrim and have zero experience, this is not the mod list for you because you will not know why it isn't working for you. But if you are experienced in modding and just want to come back to Skyrim and just play a massively overhauled list that isn't fully vanilla, then this is definitely for you. But if you do prefer a vanilla plus list and are experienced at modding because you've been playing for over 12 years, this also isn't for you because this is far from vanilla plus. But I thoroughly enjoyed using Wunduniik. I actually did 2 gameplays for it. Usually only do 1 gameplay for a mod list and then I move on, but honestly I enjoyed my entire time playing this. Just like I said, this is definitely not for lower ends with Elvenwald, Nature of the Wildlands, and Archwood all combined into one mashup. It does look beautiful, but it's definitely not meant for low end. I'm not going to give this a personal rating or anything like that because then that could be controversial. I'll let you guys decide on what you think if you'll decide to try this mod list or not, but I highly recommend it if you know what you're doing. But if you're new to Skyrim, I don't recommend it unless you plan on asking 20,000 questions. And that was it for today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed my rant. I really love Wunduniik. I'm going to do Lore Realm next, and with Wunduniik raising my expectations of Wabbajacks, I have high hopes for Lore Realm. But if you guys enjoyed, make sure you hit that like button down below, and I hope you all have a great rest of your week. Peace and love, guys.